do the compacting of the cardboard.
That's a financial component, isn't it?
Yes, I had that number, at budget time, and then nobody wanted to put it in the budget that time, but we've got that there, but it looks like it's gonna be somewhere in that $15,000 range for where you wanna put them,
Per site,
per site.
Per site.
Yes,
to set it up.
So,
yeah,
I mean, if we can't do it, we just need to think about it in next year's budget, so
Right.
don't forget it.
Yeah, or one at a time till we get all of them, because some of them already have them,
yes.
right?
Yeah,
And
El
so-
Bethel's got it. What I would suggest, to be honest with you, because the Bell Buckle Center is so small, it's not gonna be conducive to put one there because you got the traffic burden. It's better to have enough room down the maneuver. What I would do if it was me, what I'm gonna suggest at budget time is to put them in the three centers that y'all agreed to open up full time and put them in El Bethel's already got one. So you wanna do that, so you only have two more centers, the Tollgate Center and the Unionville Center, and put them there, and that sort of spreads them out a little bit. So that's what I'm looking to probably propose, to put it in where it's a small impact, and then we can filter manage if we need to.
So about 45,000.
It'd be close. But now that price is probably gonna go up in the next week or something like that, I'd say,
Yeah, well, on 15, we'd be at 30 for two sites, because one of the sites already has it.
Oh,
El Bethel
oh,
already
oh,
has
oh,
it.
El
If we
Bethel.
were going after our full-time
right.
sites, is what I'm
Yes.
saying.
Yeah.
I
So,
forgot El
yeah, so we've got some opportunities, and we will long-term, be thinking about an entire new site, 231 South area would actually then bring us
Yeah.
across the system entirely.
Yeah, that's part of what I was gonna talk to the mayor about when we get ready to budget, start talking about budget, looking at maybe trying to purchase the land out on that Fayetteville Highway side, 231 side, and pull that Lewisburg, that Fayetteville and, traffic coming off Fayetteville Highway and Flat Creek area and Wheel side up there. I think it'll take a big burden off some of the other centers.
Any other comments? All right, next up is HR, and her report's with us, and she's present.
Yes, so, as to what the Mayor just said, you all have your report, and we continue to still see, an upward trend in our hires. Our resignations, were non-eventful, they were just individuals who were eligible, they got separate for retirement, but the resignations, in the all-boardings that I conducted were non-eventful. Job postings are listed for you all. We do have an offer extended that was accepted for the youth servicer officer probation officer position. We have opened up again a firefighter full-time position. Some of those are just reoccurring that we always talk about, that we're always seeking qualified applicants. And the majority of what HR focused on in October specifically was the open enrollment to medical, health, and vision, just assisting with finance and assisting employees with questions specific to their plans. And then we set up times for the life insurance reps to come in for US Able for November. And we also conducted some on-site retirement individual meetings for employees that wish to speak with our representative from this Empower Ready, who's with the state, Ted showed. And so anyone interested in talking about TCRS, 401k, anything like that, he sat down and did one-on-ones. And that was really received well with the employees. We had 2 full days of him just meeting with individuals one-on-one. I actually prefer when we do that as opposed to doing a PowerPoint situation. I mean, those are great and knowledgeable, but it doesn't provide an environment for people to talk about their
Everybody's
information.
different, too.
There you go. So anyway, that's primarily what my focus was, and if you all have any questions, you can let me know. Okay.
Thank you. Next is archives, and I believe she's in the house.
We're having a busy month, busy fall, with a lot of researchers as far away as New Mexico this time. It's been kind of interesting. You never know who's going to turn up some days. We've had some interesting research where the mayor helped some folks find us and that were descendants of people who owned a store on the square. And actually, we learned more from them than we had for them. And so I'm really hoping for photographs of the interiors of the store on the east side. the east side is not nearly well documented as the south side of the square, business-wise. So we're working on numerous sets of permanent records, change-free records, wills, all of these types of things that are permanent, and trying to get space worked away for those in the vault and in the records building. And then, of course, in the records building, we've been adding records from a variety of places now. Particularly this month was planning and zoning, and they have a lot of permanent, very long-term records related to their codes. So we've taken those in, and so we're still working on all the different RDAs for different types of sets of records of the more modern materials. And of course, I've been given several tours. My favorite tour this month was with the social studies teachers on their planning day or extended learning day for themselves. And so they all came, and I thought I'd just give them questions and stuff all throughout the courthouse. And before I knew it, they had stayed over, and their bus was looking for them. Nothing is more interesting than school teachers on a vacation day. They just become rather unruly, and they don't care what time it is or anything. But it was great, and I'm actually hoping to get a couple of volunteers out of them. So, also one big help for me is Catherine Hopkins has started work the 1st of October with me part-time, and so the two of us are really able to knock out our requests for research, as well as giving me more time to get back to all the heavy-duty records, working with the different offices, trustee and CERCO. So that's about it for today.
We may need some help eventually with some records at the Board of Education that belong to the finance office.
Right.
Some of those
Sure.
may have to be put in storage somewhere.
Are they Board of Education or your finance?
Well, they're under finance now,
Okay,
because that was when we were a part of them.
okay. We were talking about it the other day, that they have a lot of records over in the Board of Education that we could do as well. We had a specific researcher just this last week, asking about earlier architects who built some of the buildings and historic preservation and so forth. And so I was looking for it, and I went back to their early minutes to look for when construction was underway for several of the newer several of the mid-range buildings. I think of Old Cascade as new myself, because I went to the old high school, so I always get confused as to what era. So I've had to, a database we're creating is when the schools were actually built and overlapping.
You know, some of this is stuff we just didn't have room for.
Okay, well, we'll work on it and transfer it whenever y'all are really ready for it.
And Robert, while you're on that room is absolutely full. I mean, it's like a half of that 3rd floor, maybe not half, but it's a humongous room that
There's
if
stuff
we
there.
could ever put those records somewhere.
You know, there's stuff like school records, and even when we were working over there, people would come in and say, you know, I graduated 1930 and I wanted to find my grades or
I
something.
need
So,
my diploma.
Yeah,
That's the kind
we
of
run
thing.
into that.
Yeah,
That's the kind of thing that comes through school board records is you never know when someone needs their high school diploma, or at least a copy of it, and occasionally records, their grades, not only for the high school level, but college.
Yeah, some of ours are payroll and some of them we can't get rid of. They last
yeah.
forever.
It's just a shame to use that space for
Well,
storage when I know they could use it.
they would love to have another option,
Okay, what is that option?
move it out.
Oh, yeah.
I would rather you did not find my transcripts.
Mine either.
I'd rather tell it to suit myself.
Much better.
Well, you'll be glad to know they're restricted.
Oh, well, that makes me feel a lot better. But beside me is not restricted, apparently. And so, yeah, but her mind's not what it used to be, so I've got a little work for her here. She says something that don't kind of line up right.
Yeah, right.
All right. Up next is architect, which normally school superintendent would make a comment on that. And since she's out, we'll pass on that. But our owner rep, which is Jeff Sweeney, that is doing the on-the-site construction review as the projects are developing, we're thinking that we should be able to get some kind of update from him to let you guys kind of know what's going on the ground with that as we go forward as well.
We have a workshop, a study workshop, scheduled December 1st.
For,
The new
That's with the
school,
architect
with
and the
architects.
contractor.
right, okay, yeah, so, and
That
that's
was
open to anybody that would want
Yes,
to
that
go
was
to it,
announced.
but,
That was announced at the last school board meeting.
It's 6 o'clock.
right. Which is sort of a little bit different deal than just updating currently what's going on, but certainly any of them that want to know more
What
about
date is
that.
that?
December 1st.
All right, anything, other comment on that? All right, up next is the monthly reports.
Okay, you've got your monthly reports, and if you'll look at the tax analysis, we're 370,000 more than the same time last year. Now, part of that is because of a tax increase. It's not just growth. And then if you look at the bottom part of the prior year collections, we're down 138,000. On page 2, clerk and master collections are up almost 18,000. Sales tax is up 579,000 so far, so that's the shining star. And Mark has mineral severance tax that's collected every quarter, and it's 3,400 less than the same time last year. And that's probably due to road projects being less.
Yeah, well, and sales tax, if the economy shutters, we feel that right away,
That's
right?
right.
Because that's,
It's 2 months behind, but we'll fill it pretty quick.
But the state just came out and said they are about 5% ahead of projections for this last month. Now, we're behind that, but for October.
Yeah, so
5%
that's what we're reflecting here. Okay, the next page is the juvenile detention. We're projecting a loss of 194,000 for the year. In traffic school, we're projecting a gain of 62,000 for the year.
Yeah.
Or profit, however you want to call that. We don't say profit in
No.
governmental. And you have an analysis of various accounts, and 33% is average. You'll see some that are over. Most of what you see overage is in our travel, because they take a lot of the travel at the beginning of the year. And some of these will have amendments, so a better look at on page 3, you'll look at utilities. We're up over the average in some of those, but if you look at the total, it's 34%, so it's not too far off. Food supplies are 52% so far. Part of that is because they issue purchase orders in advance for the schools, and it kind of distorts it a little bit. The last page, diesel, we're at 51%, and some of this depends on when they top up the tanks. And gasoline, the same thing. So if there are any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. You got your,
Real quick, Mark, are we good on from diesel sales and diesel use projected?
All my state funds is
Yeah,
coming in.
yeah.
We're running pretty close to what we projected to use so far right now.
Okay.
I think we're down like 1.5% with the last thing we got for the last 6 months.
So your revenues are steady with that, okay?
okay, the last thing is you have a monthly financial report. I don't really have anything unusual to report in that. We're pretty much on track, so that's my report.
any comments or thoughts? I had somebody ask me the other day, a citizen, about fuel and how that was trending, which again, this reflects it, shows it, but of course, and this person acknowledged this, we're all at the mercy of what the fuel costs. I mean, there's no negotiation apparently when it relates to that at the moment, but that is something that will continue to, I guess, fluctuate nationally, and we'll have to adjust accordingly.
The only difference in us and going out and buying it at the pump is we don't pay some of the sales taxes, the state taxes, so we get it cheaper than an individual would.
Right, but when it moves 3 cents, it's
We
3 cents
feel
to
the
us
3
too.
cents, yeah, we feel the
Because
3
we never
cents.
paid the tax in the first place, so
Right.
it's still an increase to us as well, so. Any other thoughts or comments on that? All right, and then under other reports, EMS, I know they're in the back.
You guys have my report, and the few things I've got to add to that are, we had an ambulance that we ordered last year. It's finally come in. We got it inspected by the state last week. It's ready to go into service, and we hopefully will have that in service this week. We're, I believe, close to the first part of our AMT class that Chris is teaching. That should complete in February. We have several of our employees in that class. We're working with the South Central Regional Directors on a conference that should be in December. And we'll be attending that. And currently, we are still fully staffed, so that's great news for us.
Yeah.
And, if anybody has any questions off your reports that you got in front of you.
I asked Ted about the call times,
Right.
and it's computer glitch, basically, is what it is. And
So basically, the software we use, they've upgraded their program, and they took that filters that we use to pull that report out, and we've been working with them for the last few months to get them to add those filters back. This is a nationwide company, so we're probably not too high on the scale, but as we left today, Brett is on the phone working with them to get those reports back.
But it's still running 11, 12, 13
Yes,
minutes.
ma'am. We believe that there's no difference in the times, we just don't have any way to pull that report.
All right. Any other comments or questions for them? All right, so I think we need a motion to approve all the reports.
Make a motion to approve all the reports.
All right, motion second, all in favor?
Uh,
Any opposed? All right, and then EMS has write-offs. And, right,
These need to go to the commission.
yeah, this will need to go to the commission.
Motion to send.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion second, all in favor? Any opposed? Moving on here. Other business, and would that be the surplus revenue? You want to talk about that?
Yeah, we have a report for you on surplus, and this is for fiscal year 19 up until now. So the 23 year is only a partial year, that's why it's lower. But you can see the revenues we've generated in 20 and 21. Most of that revenue is from the auctions we did at the gym, because we filled it up and then sold it, and filled it up and sold it again. And you have what we paid for labor costs to do the surplus. Now, that doesn't include all the benefits, but that's his base, that's just his salary. And that's it. If you have any questions, I've got more reports if anybody wants a copy of one.
I mean, Robert, when you can, fiscal year 19, 31,000 is what we brought in.
Right.
And now you look at 22 and it's 102 something $1,000. That's pretty good when you do it right.
Right.
And we knew it just needed systemized.
Now, in 21, we only had 21,000, but we only had one for a partial year of selling the surplus.
Yeah, and then some of the stuff that's in there had been accumulating, so I don't know that we would expect to see that big a number every time either, but we certainly should see continued growth in what we're doing. But he got in and.
That's found money for us.
Absolutely.
It's awesome.
Oh,
FY '21 is split. You have two columns, before and
Oh,
after.
I'm sorry.
And the first column was all gov deals.
And what she's done.
21
21
was split,
split,
there's
I-
two numbers.
I
You got
filled
21
it.
and 21 was gov deals and one was in-house, or what'd you say, how'd you?
After one.
The 21 is after we got one.
So, yeah, so we're climbing.
One.
That's a good thing.
He does a good job.
Any other?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, under other business, just give me just a moment. Commissioner Boutwell and I have been working on this educational funding process. We are looking at capacity that the county, under TASSER's formula, we're looking at the new funding formula for TISA. We're looking at growth and how this is going to impact our county from a taxing standpoint. Now, this is going to get really complicated over the next few months. And so it's our job to fund schools, fund education. That's our job. Our job is not to teach, or the school board has their job. We've got our job. But we need to really look at this closely. And so I've asked Commissioner Boutwell, and he and I have worked on it, more brain power on his side, to take a look and make a little small presentation. But we're going to get into this a little further as we go to present to you guys, because it's going to come. So John, if you could kind of brief them
I'd be
on
happy
where we
to
are.
make a few comments. I've got a little bit of data here. First of all, I just want to look at our population growth. And when I was looking at this, I came up with an interesting statistic. Back in 1830, I know this is going way back, we had 30,000 people in Bedford County in 1830. Now, I think we did lose a little bit of territory, because I think part of our county was carved out to other counties. But anyway, we had 30,000. And it wasn't until 1990 or 160 years later, we got back to 30,000. So we had a long period of little to no growth. In fact, there were a few years in there we had negative growth. But since 1990 to 2020, we picked up 20,000 people. So we're beginning to grow. In 2010, we had 45,000 people, and we had 7,866 students. And it seems like there's a ratio, about 17.5% of the population is a student, is in Bedford County schools. And that held true in 2010, and holds true in 2020. So I just figured, so you can sort of say 17.5%, so if the population increases, is 17.5% of that increase is gonna be children in school. So University of Tennessee projects from 2020 to 2030, we're gonna pick up roughly about, 5,500 people, maybe 5,800 people. And that's gonna result in 997 more students from 2020 to 2030. Of course, being on the school board, and I've sort of noticed the government moves slow, so I went out another 10 years. And so from 2030 to 2040, we're gonna pick up another 5,200 students. For population, 5,200, and that'll be 906 students. So in the next 18 years, we're talking probably about 1,900 more students. And it just sort of hit me, I was looking at the numbers, it just hit me that, from 2010 to 2020, we picked up 891 students. And yet, we still don't have everybody out of portables. So we're not building buildings or classrooms as fast as they're coming because we're having to put them in portables. So just to get caught up where we need to be, plus the additional coming, it looks like it's gonna be a lot of building. Either that or a lot of portables, 1 to 2.
And I think too, when we look at our capacity, in this new TISA funding formula, they are looking at the capacity, and there's a formula for how much you commit. And I think the mayor is on top of it because he knows where we are, but at some point, they're gonna come to us and say, you're not putting enough money towards education. Now, we all said, oh yeah, we're all for education, but now we're gonna find
Yeah,
out.
I'd be happy to speak to that. I don't have the data in front of me, but we're in the South Central District, and that includes counties like Murray County, Coffee County, you got Hickman County, you got Lewis County, you got Wayne County, Perry, all those kind of counties. Coffee's in there. I think Franklin's in there too. Most counties, the state comes up with a minimum number, just talking purposes, your capacity, but your minimum number. But most counties give way, way over the minimum number. So when they did this new funding formula, it really wasn't going to impact any of the counties as far as having to raise revenue because they're already giving way over. And of course, this new program, we get more money because we have, more diverse population, we have a poor population, and so forth. So with all those characteristics, we get more money. And the state, I may be rambling a little bit, but the state was requiring that the local governments give about 34%. And now it's requiring 30%. Now I think what they do is the state portion is going to be 30, so they look at all the counties together and say we're going to give all the counties 30%, and then we divvy up that 30% amongst the counties based on the ability to pay. But with all that said, we are just 4% above what the minimum is. And the rest of the counties, on average, in our South Central Core District, are roughly, if you average it out, about 20% above the minimum. So if the state hadn't lowered from 34 to 30, we'd probably been right at the minimum. So if somewhere down the pike, and And I really, hopefully, we can get somebody from the state to explain it to us, because I read this stuff, and I read it one day one way, and the next day a different way. So we need somebody that's an expert to explain it to us. But, at some point, they sort of got like a moratorium on, they're not gonna hit the county with additional requests for money. But at some point, they probably will. And I dare say, since we're right at the minimum, we'd probably be one of the first counties that's gonna have to pay up something. I don't know what it would be, but we would be probably more subject to it than a county that's already overpaying 20% or 30%. Some of these counties are like 30%. They give a lot more money than the state requires that they give, so.
But all this comes into play. It comes in with zoning, it comes in with conversations we've had about building schools, about education, about housing, about where do you want to go as a county? And we found that the higher income families require less educational spending for the higher return on their investment. Conversely, the lower income require more spending in there. And so we have got to figure out how we can reach this medium without sliding backwards, because it's going to cost us more by doing broke people decisions is why we get into situations that we could be in. So we want to make smart people decisions on here, smart money decisions. So I'm just bringing this to the attention of the commission, to the finance committee, because we're going to have to address this, and we're going to be talking about it with a representative hopefully in the next few weeks from TISA. We're going to have some TASER people here, and I don't know how we want to handle this, if you guys want to do it yourself on the finance committee, or if we do it with the school board and the full commission. But this discussion's got to take place, because this General Assembly's coming in, and they're going to start tweaking this thing in this session, and we're going to find out, because there's going to be a lot of money come to the county, but they're going to audit every bit of it. If you're not spending that money on that particular thing, they're going to jerk that money away, but we're still liable for all this stuff. So education is 70% of our budget.
And a lot of this is gonna require more supervision from the central office, more, just statistics.
Yep.
Does she have any idea how many more personnel she's gonna need?
I don't know that. I know Robert knows it's coming, and he's been prepared for it, but there are gonna be some more
Yeah.
requirements from
Well,
finance.
part of it will be a financial issue that we'll have to deal with.
Well, it's not just finance, it's
But
It's
they've
audit.
all
It's
the
audit.
other
Yeah.
scores.
Yeah,
I
they've got to
mean,
deal with it on that side
on
too.
that
so.
side too. On
But
all
their
the
new
stats.
formula is supposed to give some consideration that they're gonna have to have a little bit more. It ain't gonna cover everything,
Right.
but in this new way they're looking at it, what they're telling us, the County Mayor's Association is wringing their hands about this as well, because, but it's not been clear yet what the final shakeouts look like. But I'm hearing the 30-ish%, the moratorium for 3 to 5 years before the counties have to come online with their portion of that. There will potentially be some adjustment, if that's a way to think about it, or rebate associated potentially off of that 30. Some of the things we were hearing as possibles, if depending on what your county's demographics are and all this. So that ability to pay is a good generic way to say that. But there are going to be some things to look at. But it does not appear that absolutely Bedford is going to have to contribute more than we currently contribute our part to that per pupil. There's no way out of that. Now, what does that number look like yet? It's still not clear. They're all competing to figure out what that number looks like. It's, at least as far as the Mayor's Association and the lobbyists involved for them, they're monitoring, they're right on top of it too, because it's gonna have a huge impact.
And they come into session in January, and that's where all the finger pulling and all the stuff
And they
on
may
exemptions.
find, they're gonna have to ultimately settle out on what it's gonna be, and then the state itself will have to decide how long it's gonna be before they get to the counties proper, is the way if I'm understanding it correctly. So all the hand wringing and hands and butts is really, the General Assembly has first got to land what the rule's gonna be, and then the state will figure out how to administer that, you might say. But we're supposed to have all counties are supposed to have a grace period to figure out how to get in line with that. So, or at least that's the last thing I heard about
Well,
it.
what we don't want is hollow comments like, oh, we've always supported education, we're always gonna do this until it comes time to pay. And then
Yeah, well, we're gonna have no
you're gonna
choice
have to do
but
it.
pay.
Yep.
Under this new model, my understanding is they're going to dictate the minimums, and those minimums are gonna be a lot more than what minimums have looked like in the past. I don't think anybody disputes that, we just don't know.
And then we have to keep building schools too, on top of it.
Yeah, portable, if we got portable classrooms that are 20 years old, that would suggest that it was not temporary, for sure. And so we're not going out of business. I don't think there's anybody in this room that thinks that the counties will no longer have to do education, and the county is not gonna go out of business.
But we
And there's,
don't wanna be back to the portables.
No,
We can get
absolutely,
out
oh yeah,
of
we've
them.
got to get out of them, that's
Got to
right.
get out of those portables, and it's like John said, we know what's coming. And how that's spread out over,
Right. There's no data that suggests we're
Elementary
going
schools, middle
backwards.
schools.
You know, we don't know who, the mixture of kids, but there are gonna be more kids.
but they're gonna be there. And
I think one of the biggest challenges that they're gonna have, and what they don't know, to Mayor Graham's point, until the General Assembly kind of speaks to what the expectation is gonna be set forth in TISA, the needs on the staffing side are kind of an unknown variable right now. One of the biggest questions I think I would have, and I think others that have been in conferences recently have had, has been when you get your monthly allocation, because it's for disproportionate funding, you know, if you're getting additional because a child needs additional resources, the biggest question is, what do you do with your transfer students? Your transfer students that are coming in the county, out of the county, we can't as Bedford County claim that student for that month, and then Marshall County do the same thing, or Rutherford County. So there's some things on the administrative side that still have to be monitored
That's
as
interesting,
well.
because let's say a kid comes from Williamson County, where he's getting a minimum number, now he's in Bedford County,
Yes.
where there's poverty, there's all this other number, does he transfer with the Williamson County number, or does he pick up a Bedford County?
They
We'll
don't,
transfer
they
with
don't,
his
they don't know,
Transferred his money.
Yeah,
right?
but that's,
His number.
but they don't
we'd be
know
getting
the
less.
answer, they don't know the answer
They
to
don't know the
that.
answer.
But it's based on per pupil, it's based on the student.
It's supposed to travel with the student.
Right, I was
Yes,
gonna say, right,
Well,
what
Not
I,
district, but student.
yeah, it's supposed to be,
That's a
that
good point,
kid's
Shannon.
supposed to have a value, and that's what made some
That's
people
what-
shaking their boots.
That's right.
But it don't matter whether he's in Williamson or whether he's in Rutherford or Bedford, the question is what will the local match
Right.
be to achieve that number? But that number, my understanding, is not gonna fluctuate. If he's a $7,500 value
Yeah.
student, whether he's in Rutherford, Bedford, or Williamson, he's a $7,500 student. The
Right.
question is in Williamson, if they're already given plenty to make sure that's covered,
Right.
then what they would have would be less. If that $7,500 student comes to Bedford, it might take $600 new dollars
Right,
Right.
from us to
Right.
keep him at 7,500.
Gotcha.
It is what is,
that makes
Right,
sense.
I mean,
and
that's
they're
the
still
sort
trying,
of-
they're trying to work that out, and they're like,
right,
oh,
but
yeah,
that's
that's
gonna be,
interesting, but
yeah, the
that's gonna
school
be the biggest
board and the
challenge.
state education, that's their tracking and.
But I mean, there's
it's
been
gonna
no
affect
training
us.
because we still don't really know how that, we just know that we anticipate that that's gonna be something that's gonna have to be resolved.
It's gonna be tough. Yes, sir.
One other comment. Off the top of my head, I think about 85% of the cost of the actual school, not the building, but running schools day to day is labor.
Sure.
Yeah, roughly. And salary-wise, in our South Central Core District, we're not at the bottom, we're pretty much in the middle, so we're paying okay. So if we're spending less than compared to anybody else, but yet we're paying, that means we don't have the number of staff. So we're getting by with less staff. And I looked at that statistic, and there's probably about 3 or 4 other school districts in the state that have less staff per student than we do. And there's 142 school districts that are supported by counties. Like there's some districts that are state districts, like School for the Blind or the Deaf, but 142 supported by counties. And so our ratio of teachers, and then you stop and think about it, 13 point something other of our population, students, are limited English. And then, of course, the poverty, but, if you're a teacher and you got students in your room that can't even speak the language. And you're trying to bring them along, and then you got your other students. You know, that just sort of overwhelms you, I would think. I mean,
And I think this new formula, part of the reason 11 million is a number that's looking like in Bedford is, under this new formula, they're giving you more money, but they're going to require a resource in that classroom that maybe we've not done or been able to do in the past.
You know, when the superintendent's not here, and of course, got a school board member, but I would think that it would have to be, they're gonna have to have. some
Oh,
hope.
yeah, because it's even with the nurses, where they were splitting a nurse between schools. I think the new formula establishes that there ain't no such thing as a half nurse. Okay, so, you know, and so if you gotta have 8 by the formula, and you got 6, then you're not gonna pass audit. I mean, it was the kind of things we were hearing.
Yeah.
You know, now you can have 9 if 8's required and you wanna pay it, but whatever this new thing, so these are all,
Yeah,
things
there's a
to
lot of
come.
moving parts here.
Well, the bottom line is, all we're responsible for is money. The school board does that, all we do is
That's
money, and this is money. But we need to start, not that we need to start, we need to continue conversations with our school board, so we all are G'ing and hawing together on this, and so.
Well, and all this conversation really, in my mind, has been talking about operations, which they do, but what I'm saying is the formula is talking about per pupil spending. They ain't got anything to do with what we're spending for bricks and mortar, and we got more bricks and mortar to come. And so that's a whole nother bucket of money that will have to be adjusted along this journey to satisfy the brick and mortar piece of it. So you really got 2 different things going on here, and both of
But
them.
brick and mortar
Cost
does
money.
not go into per pupil spending.
That's right.
It's not in there.
And so that's a whole different, and so when you got 800 kids in portable classrooms in the city of Shelbyville alone, that's, well, we'll wait for them to say it, but there's a formula for that, and you probably need at least a school and a half just to address that issue, not counting all the growth he's talked about, plus the growth coming.
Yeah, we haven't handled the growth that we've had, much less the growth that's coming.
And 3 years ago, we could have built a school cheaper than we build a school now. So you can imagine that if we don't get out in front of this and continue to drag, yeah, we may not pay it today, but we'll pay 4 times what we were gonna do 5 years from now. So we've got to have a strategy. And I know that's exactly what you guys are talking about. We've got to have a comprehensive strategy for education and all the other things that government's responsible
Thank you, I
for.
didn't mean to throw cold water on our good meeting like that.
It was so, yeah, well, it's just
We're thankful.
necessary to make sure everybody.
But we just need
We gotta
economic
talk about
development to help pay for this.
Right.
That's it.
It's really what we need instead of raising tax rates.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, we need to find ways besides property tax
Yeah, we need
to
some
find
economic
revenue.
development.
Then the County Mayor's Association is working with lobbyists again and other officials at the state level to look for other mechanisms for counties to appreciate revenue to offset this rapid growth. I mean, you can't tax yourself out of this.
You have to plan yourself out, and that's why we have to have a plan. That's why everything we do has to have a plan. Our planning commission, we have to rely on them for the decisions we make. But our county commission has to listen to what the plan is, and they can't go rogue on decisions. We all need to be in hand in glove on this, so.
Which again, you can't tax yourself out of this. We've got to plan and have
Gotta do it.
strategy to get through it. Yes, sir. What else? Did we miss anything? We're on to announcements. Christmas parade, oh, okay, I'm sorry. Christmas parade, I think, is Saturday week, not this coming Saturday, but a week from then. So we encourage everybody to come participate if you can, or
The
certainly support.
Big event tomorrow, Friday night at Nearest Green, free. Come on out. I
Tree
invite
lighting,
you.
right.
Tree lighting.
What time is that? What time you want us
About,
He did.
I think they said 4:15.
Oh, did I
The
miss-
tree will light, I think about 5:15. There will be a big traffic, so plan to
get there earlier?
get there early. Tours in about 3:30, but they'll be ready to set up and start receiving people.
Yes, sir.
In the past, we've moved our meeting date for the December finance meeting. And what it is falling on the 27th, and a lot of our staff, and not just our office, but all the departments have people going on vacation. So we typically move it to the week before, prior to the committee meetings. And this year, that would be on the 20th, if that's okay with everybody. We probably need to meet up at the courthouse since you got your committee meetings right
Yeah,
after.
since all the other,
Yeah,
I mean, if that's okay.
4:15?
4:15.
Yes.
Yeah, same time.
Is that okay to
Right after-
move the date?
Right after the committee meeting, we have finances.
No, it's
No,
before.
before.
Committees are at 5, starting at 5. So, but for that one meeting only, be at the courthouse at the same date that all the other committees meet, because the
The
26th or
20th.
27th, whatever you said the date would have been. Is that permissible, or y'all want to pick another date, or you want to defer, or what you,
That's fine with me.
okay, and we'll set a reminder.
Is it the 20th, right?
20th.
Yeah, but be at the courthouse for that one time on the second floor. All right, at same time though, 4:15, just different location, different date. Got it?
Got it.
What else? Anything, anybody?
Happy Thanksgiving.
Absolutely. Thanksgiving is upon us. We have a lot to be thankful for. We got a lot of hard work in front of us too. So,
Well, the holiday mixers started at 5 to 7 at the Blue Ribbon Room if you want to go
is that today?
today,
All right.
as we
Anything
speak.
else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.